Reports of gunshots, tyres being burnt and stone throwing on the N3 near the Mooi River Toll Plaza in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. It follows the burning of at least 5 trucks late last night. Operations manager at the N3 Toll Concession confirmed reports that 3 trucks were set alight on the northbound section and 2 more trucks were on fire south of Mooi Plaza. This is the latest in a series of sporadic protests that are taking place across the province. The protests are reported to be linked to sentiments from the pro-Zuma camp. Law enforcement is making every effort to bring the situation under control and restore calm in the area. Now, for the latest update on the protests in KwaZulu-Natal, we now cross live to our reporter on the N3, who's now en route to the Mooi River Toll Plaza, Jadely Polzer. Very good morning to you, Jadely. Thank you so much for joining us, and a warm welcome to Morning Live. What's currently happening on the ground? What do you see?
A very good morning to you, Simpiwe, and good morning to the viewers back at home. Yes, we are on the N3. We are actually being escorted now, Simpiwe, by police to try and get to Mooi River Plaza. The N3 has been cordoned off in some places and cars have been diverted to Tweedy, just around the corner from Howick, en route to Mooi Plaza. The trucks that we are seeing on this road now, we are driving with them. We are the only vehicle with the police. This vehicle has been only opened for trucks and a few cars, government officials that are making their way through. But yes, like you said, there has been 5 trucks that have been set alight. This happened late last night. In early hours of the morning. It is said to be protesters that are against the incarceration of former President Jacob Zuma. We've also seen a statement there released by Premier Sigalala, also calling for calm in KwaZulu-Natal, calling for order, calling for those supporters to refrain from violent protests. We have seen some cars being stoned. These are the pictures that are also circulating on social media, with cars being stoned that were based at Mooi River Plaza, as well as those trucks that were set alight, trucks that were carrying also luxury vehicles burning. We're trying to make our way there as quickly as possible. Like I told you, the road has been cordoned off in some places here on the N3 as protests continue to flare up. There's another team that's going to be sent to Galleria Mall just outside Durban, where we are also seeing some protest action there. I'm told that Mlondi Khatebe and Nomklenkubane will be covering that leg as we follow and make our way to the protest. We're trying to navigate through the traffic here in Piwe, the trucks. It's very heavy. I'm also told by officials that are at the Mooi River Plaza that the police are still on the scene to try and move the rubble from those trucks that have been set alight. They are still there. Mooi River Plaza is still closed. They're trying to divert traffic to Tweedy and then obviously through Howick. So the minute we get there, we'll update with the latest in that regard and show you what's happening on the scene as we make our way to Mooi River Plaza. Simpiwe.
Now, Jadely, I understand that some of these protests are linked to the pro-Zuma camp, or those protesters who are calling for the release of former President Jacob Zuma. So what have you established so far?
That's very true. You know, Simpiwe, for the better part of yesterday, we were very careful in the wording that we used, whether it was supporters that were supporting the shutdown KZN movement in support of former President Jacob Zuma. But we are hearing on the ground that it is supporters that are conducting these protests in support of former President Jacob Zuma. They want him free. They want him released. They are saying that they're going to bring KZN to a shutdown. We did see Premier Sigalala release a statement also confirming that, saying that he's calling for law and order, calling for supporters of former President Jacob Zuma to please show their support, but do not burn anything, do not act in any violent manner in the province. We have seen thousands or millions of money, being burnt with those luxury vehicles, and that statement there. But we've also seen a statement by Brigadier Vish Naidu that says that they are going to enforce and make sure that they bring those who are organizing these large gatherings to book. There was a statement that was released yesterday as well, saying that anyone that has been converging or anyone that is threatening to shut down any parts of the roads, national roads, will be brought to book, and they are going to be monitoring this. So as we speak now, N2, N3 have been targeted. We also saw the M7 yesterday with supporters also blocking and closing several of the roads in several of the districts. Mandeni yesterday, Klatuze, Kwadakuze, just outside Pietermaritzburg, where Samkele Maseko was based, and en route from Escort yesterday, we did see in Mooi River last night that flare-ups once again. So police are monitoring this, and we did see that they have released a statement saying that they're going to definitely bring those who are organizing these sporadic protests to book, Simpiwe.
You know, Jadely, for the benefit of our viewers who might have missed some bits of information with regards to this impasse or this unfolding impasse, do you want to just take us back to the genesis of this violence and of this tension? What could have possibly led to it?
Well, you know, Simpiwe, since the incarceration of former President Jacob Zuma, and even before that, we've been seeing supporters flocking to Nkandla, supporters flocking to where he is now incarcerated at Escort Correctional Facility, and the large gatherings that took place there. But subsequently, after we saw Police Minister Becky Cele calling on the general public, calling on the ANC members and supporters of former President Jacob Zuma to refrain from these large gatherings, I suppose this has angered many of the people who want to show their support. Like I said yesterday, we were very careful in what we were saying, whether it was the supporters of former President Jacob Zuma or whether indeed it was just ironic that there were these sporadic protests happening in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. But we did see the Premier saying that there is a link there. There are many members of the ANC and the general public who are in support of former President Jacob Zuma, who want to show their support, who are also disgruntled at the manner in which this case was handled. You would know, if you've been following this case, that the ruling at the Pietermaritzburg court for his stay of arrest was dismissed yesterday. On Monday, the Constitutional Court application will then be heard as well. So we understand the extreme anger of the people who are protesting. And, you know, in that statement there by Premier Sihle Zikalala, he also said that, the ANC is also calling for calm. They are hoping that supporters can support without resorting to violence. There's been several violent protests happening since the incarceration of the former statesman. And we've also seen the police saying that there's a comprehensive multidisciplinary provincial security plan now that's going to be set up, that they are cautioning all people to refrain from any violent protests. They will be brought to book. They will be arrested. And commenting on yesterday's developments, Premier Sihle Zikalala has also said that anyone to be found to be disrupting or to be breaking the law in terms of burning rubble, burning vehicles, will also be arrested. So a very stern warning from provincial government there, but also from the police saying that those who are protesting will be brought to book. Those who are organizing these sporadic protests across KwaZulu-Natal will also be arrested. So a stern warning there. But just in relation to the protests that is currently taking place, like I mentioned before, SABC was very careful in trying to link the two, but it has been confirmed that there is a link between the violent clashes and riots that we're seeing in KwaZulu-Natal and that of what is currently happening to our former former President Jacob Zuma. Simpiwe.
Now, Jadely, just as a matter of curiosity, the trucks that you're passing, do we know if they are also part of, or linked to the protest, or is it simply a coincidence that you happen to pass these trucks along the way?
No, it's not a coincidence in Piwe. These trucks that we are passing right now have been diverted. The road has actually split. Some of the cars have been diverted past Tweedy. It's a back road leading past Howick into Mooi River. So we are being escorted by police. Now, unfortunately, we can't show you what's happening in front of the vehicle. We can only show you what's happening behind. So we are currently following police as they take us through Mooi River Plaza. It is closed there as we speak, but I can mention as well that there are several trucks that are stationed on the side of the roads that have parked off I'm not too sure why this is the case. Perhaps they have decided that the situation is volatile and they do not want to move into Durban or out of Durban. In fact, there are protests also currently happening in and around the Durban precinct. We are told that there were protests early this morning in KwaMashu, Galleria Mall as well on that N3, so on the N2 rather. So there are these sporadic protests that are currently taking place, and in light of the fact that some of the trucks have been burnt at Mooi River Plaza, I'm sure many of them are diverting and trying to stay clear from the protest actions in PUA.
Now, Jadely, seeing that former President Jacob Zuma will be spending another weekend in prison, any word from the family, perhaps, what they make of this? Because we've been seeing some tweets, in particular from Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, who's saying that, these protests are definitely linked to the supporters of former President Jacob Zuma. So in terms of verifying the authenticity of these sentiments, have you heard any word from the Zuma family?
Yes, I also saw that tweet by Dudu, and this is the sentiments from the family members. When I was there at Escort yesterday, we were expecting some of the family members to come and pay a visit to former President Jacob Zuma, as well as some of his allies within the ANC. We did see Carl Niehaus, former suspended ANC member, coming through in his subsequent arrests in PUA as well. So from the time that I was there, we did not actually see any family members. There has been tweets by Dudu saying that they're going to stand in solidarity with her father. She's calling on people to not remain mum, but rather to come out and show their support and also pledge their support, despite the fact that he has lost that stay of arrest ruling at the Pietermaritzburg High Court, but the bid is not yet lost. They're going to see what happens on Mondays. Ayanda Mhlongo, my colleague, is stationed at Escort Correctional Facility. She'll be there until Monday following those proceedings. We've got Simpiwe Makanya also in Nkandla that is going to be talking to family members and trying to find out from them what exactly and where to from here now. In as much as we're seeing these protest action, we can't shy away from what is currently happening at the Constitutional Court and also what the provincial-led government is saying. We did see that exclusive interview there by Samkelo Maseko speaking to provincial, Premier Sihle Zikalale, where he did say that he is supporting former President Jacob Zuma. He's always supported the president, and that in as much as the former president is going through this, and it's painful to see as the ANC-led government, it's painful to see as a provincial government, they will continue supporting. They don't condone what is happening with regards to the protest action here in the province, but are calling all members to refrain from being violent, refrain from burning infrastructure, refrain from burning, cargo and trucks, and refrain from closing all major roads. We did see several of the major roads yesterday closed, especially those leading into our Durban ports where our cargo was led, and that was a concern for the provincial government, is saying that, we can simply not destroy and cause destruction and mayhem, but also saying that calling for calm and calling for peace and calling for those who are angry and hurt by what is currently happening to former President Jacob Zuma to refrain from doing this, but rather support him in a dignified manner, in a fashionable manner, Simpiwe.
Jadely, another key body that has been in the news in the past few days is the Jacob Zuma Foundation. In fact, they just posted a tweet about 14 hours ago. Let me just share with you what they are saying. It says the foundation has noted the reactive, righteous anger of the people of South Africa, which others have characterized as violence. When approached, the tweet says, the people are saying they're reacting to the violent provocation meted to them as manifested by incarcerating President Jacob Zuma without trial. No calls for calm whatsoever from this particular foundation. Your thoughts?
That's very true. I think that's been their sentiments in PUA. And also you must remember that in as much as these protests are flaring up and we're seeing these sporadic protests across the country, there's also protests, smaller protests happening around the country. And many are saying that to jail former President Jacob Zuma in this fashion, to have him go to prison without trial, it goes back to the apartheid regime where we saw our leaders being incarcerated for standing up what they believe is right. Also saying that there are statesmen who have done atrocities to this country, but they are not being called to book. They have not been in prison. Why is former President Jacob Zuma going to prison without trial? Despite everything that happened, despite the arms deal, despite the current trial that's currently taking place in the Pietermaritzburg High Court and all of that, but simply saying that this was a very harsh sentence. There could have been another way of handling this, but to send him to prison for 15 months unsuspended in this manner is simply not right. And that's why we are seeing this anarchy around the country, especially from his supporters, especially from ANC members, saying that this was just not the right way to deal with this. And also painful to see him. He's such an elderly figure. He's one of the oldest members of the ANC. He served the country. He fought during apartheid. He was, he had to go underground many years ago during segregation, and he's done so much for the country. To see him, his name being tarnished like this, to see him sitting in prison at the age that he is simply not right. And these are the sentiments that we've seen across the country. This is what we've seen on social media platforms. Many saying that despite everything that has happened, despite the Zondo Commission, despite all the information that has come out, the witnesses that have taken to the stand and implicated him in that, to jail this man at this age is not on, Simpiwe.
All right, J.L. Polzer. Yeah, it is a big story of the week and perhaps of the century. I mean, the arrest of a former president is quite unprecedented in South Africa's judicial history. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, you guys need to drive safe. We'll should be checking on you a little later on. Thank you and keep safe. All right, that was our reporter J.L. Polzer. She's en route to the Mooi River Toll Plaza along the N3, wherein we saw violence.